left hook that put him down, but he wasn't out. I could see it in his eyes. I could see it in his body. He was wide awake. It's not like he was, to the point where I could finish him off. I tried to land a few other punches throughout the fight, and I think I might have hurt him with a body shot at one time, but it was towards the end of the round, and he was game. He survived. Then he focused more on just surviving and defending himself, and made it a little more complicated for me. Up until the 12th round, I was still landing some good shots, and I still tried to land some good headshots in the last and final round, but I didn't feel enough damage was done to try to put him out.
Did you feel that he kind of went into survival mode in the second half of the fight?
There's a few rounds where he did. I think he went a little more defensive. I don't know if you want to call that survival mode. Maybe he was a little hurt from that body shot, or maybe he felt a punch upstairs that might have hurt him. And he's smart. He's a champion. He wanted to survive, get his bearings again, and he made it to the 12th round.
Mikey, talk about his jab. Do you feel like if he would have popped the jab more, it would have given you more difficulty? Or did you guys have that plan?
I felt, coming into the fight, I felt, and we all thought, he was going to try to use that jab and use that reach. So we were prepared for that. He really wasn't snapping it hard. He was just, throwing it out there. So I just had to wait for the right time, the right distance and range for me to be able to land. I landed some good jabs on him, even though he had the reach. I was able to time it perfectly and land a solid jab. And I think he respected that enough because he would move back.
Do you see any similarities? You see, obviously it's arrows at 147. Do you see any similarities in the style? Easter?
Look, I think it's a different fight. Errol spins the southpaw. He bangs to the body a lot. It's a different fight. This guy Easter was fighting, trying to use that distance, but it's just a whole different fighter.
Robert, question for you in the back too. Lomachenko is a top-ranked fighter. We know the history there with Mikey with Top Rank. You've been doing a lot of those top-ranked shows recently. Have you had any conversations with the people there about kind of thawing those problems and advancing towards Mikey and Lomachenko?
Not with Bob Arum or Todd, but I do with a lot of other people that work for Top Rank, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. Most of them tell me Mikey will beat Lomachenko, and that's probably why if the fight ever happens, it's gonna be whenever it's so big where it has to happen. But as of now, that's what Mikey doesn't even consider chasing that fight, because we know that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Robert, Mikey, buenas noches. Antes que nada, muchas felicidades por la gran
alleviate a little bit of the pressure when it comes to fighting Robert.
I like to be patient early on in my fights anyways. First couple rounds, I'm feeling my opponent, finding that distance, that range, feeling his speed, his power. So it was just a matter of time before I started to get on the attack, get my rhythm going. Just so happens that I knocked him down in that third round. But I started getting that rhythm going, and after I noticed that I could hurt him and I felt that I was starting to take control, that was it. There was no turning back, no walking back.
Lastly, obviously you want to fight Errol Spence all the way at 147, and winning that title would give you a world title in 5 different weight classes. What does that mean for you legacy-wise to join an extremely elite and exclusive class of fighters winning a world title in 5 different weight classes?
Well, that's why I'm trying to get that, because there's only a select few, and only the greats, have accomplished that feat. I'm here in search of that, and I'm not just trying to pick up a belt against nobody, against someone that just happens to be a champion. I'm going against the best. I'm trying to get the best fighter, the most, just dangerous man at welterweight. I'm trying to get that, because that's what I think will, cement my name and put that, stamp of approval for everybody. No one else will be doing that. No one else is doing that right now. There's no other fighter on this planet doing what I'm doing.
It's, as I said, dare to be great. Dare to be great. Very few do that.
Richard, you said it's one of the biggest fights that can be made. How many pay-per-view buys do you expect this could generate? I know you've broken down the numbers a million times by now, I'm sure.
I love to do pay-per-views, and I'm usually pretty accurate with my, with my estimation. So I think this is going to be a big pay-per-view, and I'm not going to tell you how many yet. But I always promote pay-per-views. I want to break records, and so we're going to do a big number with that.
Question for Robert and Mikey. We've seen fighters in the past, like Roy Jones Jr. and Bernard Hopkins, utilize like a conditioning guru, like a Nike Showstone, when they go up for a high-profile fight at a greater weight. Would you bring in someone like that? Or not him in particular, but just some kind of like strength and conditioning guru?
Look, it's kind of different the way things work with especially with Mikey. I said it to a few people before. This is like one of the first training camps that Mikey starts doing sit-ups. Maybe that's the start. Maybe that's the start to get himself to a welterweight. He hardly ever does sit-ups or pull-ups or push-ups or none of that stuff. He does his running. He runs very hard, and when we're in the gym, we do a lot of rounds of sparring. That's pretty much what it'd be something that moving up to welterweight, something that we would probably consider and maybe talk about before before I make a decision. It'll be between me, Mikey, my father, and the rest of the team. See what we decide to do.
Well, I don't do a whole lot of physical training like that, but I think we'll have to use a little more and implement some different exercises because I am going to be moving up all the way to welterweight. So I think the main thing would be the diet, change the way we eat, and maybe implement a little more, physical core training for that.
And also, obviously you're a great boxer, but Spence is like a big 47 who can even fight a 54. Like, how much muscle would you have to possibly add on to just deal with his strength and power?
There's other things that I can try to use. I can try to use speed. I can try to use angles. I can footwork. There's a lot of things that I can use to overcome that height, the reach, the southpaw, the strength, all that. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes, to compete and win that fight as well.
Mikey, when Spence visited us at ringside, he said he wants to do this fight this year. He mentioned November. That might be a pretty quick turnaround. Would you be willing to do it as early as November?
Well, I said I wanted to do before the end of the year. November's before the end of the year. I was thinking, November, December. It's not too far off. If we land on a date that we can, compromise there, I think we can have a good training camp, enough time. That's all that it takes. If we set a date that allows both of us to train, well for it, I have no problem.
Mikey, just a quick question. Even though it was the left hook that dropped him, you managed to land the right hand pretty frequently and it seemed pretty easy. What was it about him or your game plan that you were able to land the right hand?
He kept bending towards his right, so my right hand would actually come down and land a couple of times. It was hard for me to land it when he was standing straight up. Sometimes I'd miss, but it's just the timing. I had to figure out the right time for me to let go of that right hand. That left hook that dropped him came after a right hand. As he was pulling back, I caught him with a left hook. On other occasions, I landed a good left hook. We were ready to do whatever it takes, and we practiced a lot in the gym, and we knew it was just about getting that right distance, that right range, so that I could let go of my hands.
Mikey, there's been a lot of talk about, you haven't faced a fighter that big, but Spence also to this point has only faced really like Kell Brook, right? As far as like a world-class fighter, he hasn't faced a boxer like you. And I know you keep saying that you've seen something in his game. Do you think that he'd be in for a surprise as far as your boxing ability and angles and footwork and those sort of things?
He's a terrific fighter. He's an experienced fighter, and he's very strong. He's a dangerous man. So I don't know if I can surprise him. I think he's got the experience. He knows the kind of fighter I am. But I think what will surprise him is how well I can do other things. If you're standing on the outside, you know, everybody can just see a simple guy, just straight 1-2. Nothing special about that. Ask any of my opponents what they feel after the fight. Is it easy? Was it like they expected? I think they'll all tell you it wasn't what they expected.
Hey Mikey, have you guys considered maybe when the fight gets made having some sort of stipulation where the Spence can't go over a certain weight, like rehydrate? I don't know if you thought about that.
I think the IPF has its own regulations and laws on that, so I got nothing to ask. I ain't asking for no catch weight either.
Wow.
You know, whatever we say is not going to change Mikey's idea, you know, of fighting Errol Spence. So we're going to go for it. You know, we've talked to my dad, and my dad tells me earlier today, after the fight in the locker room, says, contact Manny Pacquiao. My dad would rather go after Manny Pacquiao. He's a WBA champion, and but that just doesn't interest Mikey. I think we're going to go straight into Errol Spence.
Mikey, would you want that fight in San Antonio, or would you want that fight in Dallas or in Los Angeles?
I think we already started talking about that, and I think that fight belongs in Vegas. I don't think that there's any other better venues for it.
Mikey, what do you rate your performance? I know you haven't had a chance to watch tape, but what did you grade your performance tonight?
I think I did very well. You know, I think I overcame the height and reach. You know, I did well. I hardly got hit. You know, a couple jabs, you're boxing, but overall, I didn't get hit with solid punches. I wasn't hurt, and I hurt my opponent several times. Body shots upstairs, I dropped them. I mean, I don't think I could have done much more. You know, if I had stopped him, obviously that would have been probably a better ending to the fight. But you know, you saw me 12 rounds. You saw me adjust. You saw me use my feet at times. You saw me fight on the outside. You saw me fight on the inside. I think I did, you know, great.
It was a masterful performance, and please give it up for Mikey Garcia, our unified lightweight world champion. Thank you.
I'm nervous, but I don't want to be part of it. And I know what you're going to do. You're going to pull out like Deontay Wilder. And that, you're not going to, Bobby Canelo, you're not going to do that. Robert, okay? Hey, congratulations. At what point in the fight did you realize I got him, Mikey? What round and what point?
After the first round.
Are you serious?
I just felt that, you know, it was just a matter of time. I felt the speed, I felt the power. I still needed some time to adjust, but I just felt that I was going to get him.
Spectacular job, man.
What was there something that caught you off guard, or everything that he was throwing at you, you're like, okay?
No, like I said, we were ready, you know, for whatever he had, and I knew he was going to come with his best. I think he did. I think he fought better than anybody expected. Everybody was just thinking of, you know, Fortuna, and it wasn't like that. I knew he was going to come better than that, so I was ready to do whatever he had.
How does power feel? And would you ever stun?
He's got decent power. I can feel the power. For the most part, when he's jabbing, he wasn't throwing power shots at that point. But when he did let go of his hands, you know, a couple of hooks, you can feel power, but nothing enough to hurt him.
All right, can we let him go? He just fought 12 rounds.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.